You're ready to go. So, it wants us, the first thing we're supposed to do, I guess, is describe what we did last week. Um, and it says if your partner from that assignment is present, we can do it together. But we were partners last week, so I kind of think we can skip that step, wouldn't you say?
Okay. Yeah.
And to just us, I mean, unless there's something you want to go over about it last week, I don't know. You did a
Yeah.
really good job. I had no idea how to do anything on that blog. I've never done one like that before, so thanks for doing that.
Um, so this week, the intervention with the social, right? Social,
Yeah,
emotional.
this week, yeah.
Do you want to go over your research first?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can do that. So I ended up doing um dealing with like tantrums and how to either deal with them when you're in them or try to not have them as much as possible. I mean, 2-year-olds are going to be 2-year-olds and they're going to throw fit in their web. And what that's kind of going for. So I looked up a couple different things and I found pretty much all the sites and stuff I looked up kind of had different steps you could do. So I just kind of picked and choose some of my favorites. I'll kind of explain what they said, why they and normally the simple thing. It's not getting what they want. For children between ages 1 and 2, they're normally getting so frustrated because they can't communicate. That they just want more milk or a diaper change or whatever, so they don't know how to tell you that, and so they end up just throwing a fit. For more older toddlers, like 3 to 4, they are a little bit more autonomous. They kind of know what they're doing a little bit more. They can tell you what they want. So for those kids, it's more of like a power struggle. So, and if their needs and desires aren't being met, then that's when they go crazy. So one of the first things I found, they said to just ignore the kid. During the tantrum, when the kids like escalated so much, their brain kind of shuts down. The reason part of their brain shuts down. And so trying to talk to them and trying to with them, it's not going to do anything, frustrate them more and escalate the situation. So they said just ignore them. Like if you're at home and you need to, just go into another room or put them into another room or do whatever, but just ignore them. Try not to talk in any reason into them or to them. The next one was just give your kids some space. Here's a quote. It says, sometimes a kid just needs to get his anger out, so let him. I mean, I know I've had moments where I just feel like I want to kick and scream too, so this is their way of getting it out. They just have to get it out. They're able to get their feelings out, pull themselves together, and later regain self-control. Yeah, so they can, like, it works in tandem with the ignoring it, so you just kind of ignore them and get out of their space. Another one was create a diversion. Kids, for the most part, have a pretty short attention span, so you can, change what they're focused on pretty quickly. And always, one of the psychologists said, always sound really psyched when you do it. Like if you're in a grocery store and you kind of see that they're starting to get upset or they already are upset, like you try to change their train of thought, like, oh, let's go get ice cream, but you have to be like equally excited about it or they're not dumb, they'll catch on. The next one was find out what's really frustrating your kid. For kids that are 2 to 2.5, like I said earlier, they can't really communicate what they want because they only know a few words. But if you're able to teach them a little bit of sign language, they can kind of catch on to that easier than they can actually vocalizing their words. So, they can tell you they want more, or they want a drink or a diaper change, if you just teach them the really basic signs, they can communicate a lot easier. The next one is just give them a hug. And they're not talking about like a super cuddly hug. They're talking about a big, firm, like a compression kind of hug. I don't know if you have experience with or special needs, but a lot of them really like the compression. They like to feel pressure when they're getting upset. And so this is the same kind of idea. So just give them a big hug and don't really say anything. Just be quiet and calm when you do it. It helps them, can help them feel secure and let them know that they do have a safe place to get their emotions out. The next two aren't really my favorite, but they did come up and they do kind of make sense, but it wouldn't be my like go-to problem solving. The first one is offer food or a little R&R. So my problem with that is, every time a kid throws a fit, you're going to feed them. You're going to end up having a really fat kid probably. And that doesn't really solve the problem. I think it tends to just mask it. But their idea behind it was feed them, water them, and let them veg. So whether that means putting them to bed or letting them watch little TV, they also go on to say, think about how cranky you get when you miss out on sleep or your blood sugar hits rock bottom. I know when I get hungry, I tend to get hangry and I get really upset. So I can understand that to a point, but I wouldn't, like I said, go to food every time they throw a fit. The next one is give them an incentive to behave. They said it's about recognizing when you're asking a lot out of your child, so you're not giving him something every time for little things that they're like. Don't reward them for things they're expected to do, but when you're expecting more out of them, then go ahead and give them a little bribe. They said it's really important to do this beforehand as long as it's on your terms instead of in the middle of a tantrum. I thought that was pretty interesting. The next one is just speak calmly. Normally, if your kid is screaming, if you can kind of stay calm and stay quiet, eventually what you're saying, slow down and try to at least listen, hopefully. But if you continue to just get loud, it turns into a power struggle and it escalates the whole situation. The next one is just laugh it off. This one I think would be super hard to do, especially if you're in public, because it feels like when your kid's throwing a fit, everybody's just staring at you. But one of the psychologists made a really good point. They said they're not judging you for your kid having a tantrum. They're judging the kid having a tantrum. So if you completely freak out and whatnot, then eyes are probably going to look to you a little bit more. But if you just kind of laugh it off and act like you have control over the situation, nobody's really going to judge you. And the last one is just get out of there. Get the kids away from a different scene or into a different scene, can kind of snap them out of it. So I thought those were probably my top. I don't even know how many were, but yeah. That's kind of what I found for
okay. Those are great.
Bit.
I agree with. I wrote a bunch down. Okay, mine was on the bullying intervention. I looked at I should have this on my computer. Sorry, I have it in my notebook.
No worries.
So I just got a article off of EBSCO No.
Mm-hmm.
The right page. Yeah. And the article was called Teaching and Teachers Education. It was called How Teachers Respond to School Bullying. And there's one way that they respond is a authority-based approach. They use their own personal authority to establish firm limits with verbal reprimands, and if unsuccessful, other disciplinary means, including all kinds of sanctions. So mostly that took place, and they did a study, and 82% of the teachers used that approach in Germany, and with similar results in England, Finland, and the U.S. Another intervention they used was non-punitive approach, which means that to restore justice, aim to address the bully's motives for their behavior, increase their empathy and responsibility, give them insights in the harm that was resulted from their wrongdoing, and help them define non-aggressive behavioral strategies. And that was used with 44% of the teachers. And results were comparable in Germany and Finland and the US. Let's see. The other two were enlisting other adults as intervention, other teachers, counselors, other parents. And in the study, they did 40% of those in Germany did that were likely to do that there. So it was pretty much less likely to use this method of intervention, as well as it was even lower in the US and Finland and Canada. And then the last intervention is working with the victim, which is really low. There's like 26.7% of teachers who would use that in Germany, in US and Finland, pretty much because they were unsure whether or how to work with the victim. So basically, if they work with the victim and strengthen and support them, and try to increase their assertiveness, that would usually help the bullying to cease. But most of the teachers didn't know how to handle that. And then ignoring the incident, it said that none of the teachers did that. They got 0% on their research with that, because they were all in the same boat that it needed to be addressed. So, and then their theory or whatever in this article is saying that the teachers need to take a more holistic approach as to not being more authoritative in their discipline, but applying each of the interventions, that like enlisting adult help, non-punitive, authoritative, and working with the victim. Like all of those need to be used. And then like teachers should be trained in college before they're in the field on how to stop bullying and how to address it in a more holistic way. So, but anyway, yeah, that was my basic research from that.
Interesting. Along with it, it says the state implemented the intervention personally to address the identified problem. And if it was effective, if not, how the research evidence. For me, I kind of not, because he's only 6 months, so he kind of has tantrums, but it's not like the other ones. But I worked, before I had my son, I worked with children that have special needs at the high school level, and they definitely threw their fair share of tantrums, and we actually different steps. Most of it talking calmly. We always had to make because if we they can escalate the situation more. So, we definitely of them we would hold of them hugs, or we have these it could lay him down and just put the weighted blanket and just kind of lay and chill, basically. We did do some incentives depending on the behavior and the kid, really. We gave them plenty of space because they were high school kids, so they were, for the most part, boys, and they were all quite a bit bigger than most of us girls were. So if they were throwing their tantrum, we just kind of backed away, and it even got to the point sometimes where we would have to get all the other students out of the classroom and everybody just completely leave the classroom and let the kid do what they needed to do. And once they were finally calmed down, then we could, kind of come in and do what we needed to do to kind of assess the situation. But so these steps for them worked pretty well, and I would assume they would work well for, a non-special needs tantrum throwing child. But have you had to apply any of the, interventions you have found?
Not really. I mean, I gave the percentage of the effectiveness with the different studies, just because I don't really have to deal with this. I guess my son on some level deals with it a little bit, and my daughter, like, in really minuscule ways. Like somebody is taking the color of rock that she wants, and anyway, it's not anything like real bullying. So I guess just I'm trying to teach him to be assertive and deal with the problem. But so I guess that would be the victim, working with the victim, but they aren't really on bullying victims. So
that's good. Okay. The next one is share highlights from the domain interview with caregivers during lesson 10. I interviewed my sister because she has all of her kids are pretty much within the range that we could use. I'm trying to find it now. Go figure. And so it was kind of hard to pick and choose which kid we actually wanted to use, but I think we ended up doing, for the most part, her oldest daughter, who is 10 and a half, I think. Great, and now I can't find it. I just had it. But, shoot. Well, I'll just have to try to remember. I think some of the biggest things for her that I'm worried about, her big, although I don't know how to word it, but she's terrified of her daughters because she has 4 daughters, so she's terrified of them getting kidnapped. So that was like her big thing. And one of her second daughter is, how old is she's like 8, almost 8, and she likes to just go up and talk to random strangers. She's very friendly. She mostly goes up older men, like grandpa kind of style, but you never know, people are crazy. So that was her biggest concern, and so for that, her intervention is, she's just constantly talking about stranger danger and what to do, and if some random person walks up to you, and she's really makes sure the older siblings and all of them kind of all just look out. So that was her biggest one. I think her second biggest one was kind of not fitting in or being accepted by the peers. for the most part, her oldest daughter does pretty well with making friends. So I guess we talked mostly about her second oldest, now that I think about it. But the second oldest, the one that likes the older guys, she is really smart. She's in like the gifted classes, and so it's probably mean to say, but I feel like all the really smart people are always seem to be a little bit off when it comes to social aspects of it. And so she kind of struggled a little bit with making friends. She's perfectly fine to just play alone and do her own thing and be in her own world. So that for my sister, I think those were her two biggest concerns when it comes to her kids. What about that highlight you got from your interview?
Um, just I interviewed my primary president. She's also a teacher. Anyway, and her cognitive, she was talking about the lack of authentic interaction and verbal skills that kids have because they're predominantly involved with electronics. Like they're not very engaged in learning and they're missing out on interpersonal skills, which I totally agree with. And she was just saying like, kids are naturally creative and curious, and parents need to feed and direct and encourage that creativity and curiosity. And she was just saying that she thinks, parents are responsible, and if that doesn't work out, that then a professional needs to be a professional can work with the parent, and then after that, she says that the parents need to be on board. Oh no, then a professional needs to work alone with the child if the parents aren't able to with the professional. So, and then physically, let's see. This is my friend. She's a preschool teacher. So this is in the age group of 2 to 5, I think. And she was saying lack of good eating habits that can lead to problems. Learning about safety, consequences of danger. But she was saying that having rounded school lunches, the WIC program, the different programs the government offers, like the food pyramid, doctor checkups that, give safety tips for kids to keep them safe from fires and streets and stuff. But that would help. Also, parents buying healthy foods and supervising. So she's just saying parents or supervising adults in the school or whoever the child is trusted to should help them have eating habits and make sure they're safe. So hers was not just eating habits, but also the safety of the kids. Like in general, dangers that little ones 2 to 5 would have, not running in the street, fires and safety and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, those are super important. All good stuff. I think parents are definitely responsible when it comes to children just zoning out in technology. I mean, it's crazy. Like kids nowadays, you get 2-year-olds that know how to work smartphones better than their parents do.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. And then even just setting a good example or, limiting screen time for, I haven't noticed how much I've been on even just my phone till I lost it like literally yesterday.
Right. And then you just it's like your whole world's crashing down.
Yeah.
And how do I do anything? Yeah, that's one thing I think is going to be interesting because like I said, we have a 6-month-old, so we're not too concerned just yet. Like, I don't just let him pop down in front of the TV all day, but we'll see how it gets when he gets older, because I don't want him to be stuck in technology, but then that means I have to get off my technology too, and I don't know.
And they want to do what their parents are doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It'll be good though, because then I'll get off my butt and maybe become active again.
So, my 5-year-old likes to pretend all her toys that she's texting on them or something. Like,
Yeah.
it's just our example, really.
Mhm.
That's where she gets it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. My sister has an almost 2-year-old, and she loves trying to get a hold of my sister's phone to play games and stuff, because my sister had little games on it for the older siblings, and so she sees them doing it and she wants to do it too. And since she's at home all the time, my sister just got so sick of it that she ended up buying one of the Kindle Fire touchscreens or whatever, but she got like a kids edition. That way the 2-year-old can have her own screen, like her own little thing with her own games. That way she can leave my sister alone. And it's just crazy. I'm like, oh, I don't think I would ever do that, but you never know until you're faced with that situation. But still, it's even crazy that it's even a possibility to get a 2-year-old their own little tablet.
yeah. Yeah. And I guess from 2 and younger, they're not supposed to have any screen time. That's what the government says.
That's what I've heard. And I'm just like, that's not even realistic. There's no way.
Yeah. Even just movies or, little PBS shows.
Nothing. I mean, they can't even be in the living room while I, sit and watch the news, if that's the case. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's unrealistic. But I also think giving a 2-year-old their own touch iPad thing is also very, I don't know. But whatever.
Yeah. Oh, my kids.
Yeah. Whatever gets you through is what I feel like. Whatever helps you survive. Okay, the next part says attempt to identify common elements of effective interventions targeted to different problems in different domains. Effective interventions target different problems in different domains. I don't even, do you really understand what is that like, I don't know.
So, like, intervention for, like, in the physical domain and the social economical domain, emotional, sorry, and the what's the other one? Cognitive domain.
Yeah.
Find commonalities between the interventions.
Yeah.
A lot of the interventions say, like, parenting. Parents need to make the changes.
Yeah, I think that's what pretty much all of mine was, at least the parents or the caregivers, or like the some like siblings, or just pretty much the family. I mean, it's your job as the parent to kind of provide, not kind of, it is your job to provide for your kids and make sure that they're getting the best in all 3 domains that they can and deserve. It's not up to the school system to make sure your kids, learn not to run into the street or do those things, or learn how to eat healthy. It's not their job. It's mom and dad's, or whoever's at home taking care of them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like even like when they need to have therapy or other kinds of interventions come in, if they're in the spectrum of autism or something, like it's still the parent's job to look that up and have the resources. At the same time, the resources, I think, need to be available to parents.
Yeah.
So
sure. That can be, I mean, working in the SPED department, there's a lot to it, especially when you have a kid with special needs. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that parents either just don't do the research to find out, or they like just don't know how to get it, or it's hard to get. there's a lot of stuff out there that, you know, could really make a difference, and either the parents don't, well, I don't want to say they don't care enough, but, you know, if they're not going to go do the research and figure out how to get it, then they kind of don't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not made readily accessible either. So, six one way, half dozen the other.
Yeah. Well, I guess they say with the early intervention, the younger they start, the better. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've heard. My sister-in-law has a 2-year-old that has special needs, and so they're already, you know, getting her into speech therapy and all kinds of stuff. So the earlier the better, I think, because then you can, I don't know, figure out a system that's going to work for later on and whatnot.
yeah, I agree. But yeah, having those resources available, it's usually through the government or the school, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but
Yeah. All right. Next bullet point is conclude by sharing your best general insight or suggestion about effectively intervening to foster optimum development. Oh gosh, I don't even know. I guess my best, I would have to say, probably just be proactive. You know, don't wait for your kid to do something or feel something or say something, um, and then figure it out. You know, like don't wait for your kid to be obese to figure out that, oh, maybe I should make sure he eats healthy or he's getting enough exercise, or wait till the teacher comes to you in a parent teacher conference saying, hey, your kid, you know, is behind in reading or whatever. Like, try to be proactive and just pay attention to the little things that your kids are doing, because those little things, I think, could, um, they mean a lot, and they could, you know, make or break certain situations. I think would be my general, whatever, my general insight.
yeah, that's good. I agree. And I think also like um, being educated on how, even just being educated on what the risks are at each age group, and then the interventions available or
Yeah.
interventions that need to be taken on our, like on the parents' part, is really important. And also um, just being in tune with your kids' needs, like you said, just in tune with the spirit, and even just like your mother's intuition. That's I've been told that's direct revelation from God. So don't say no, I'm being paranoid, or if it's there, act on it. So I think it's important, to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably my general summary of all the interventions.
Very nice. I like it. All right. The last thing we're supposed to do is summarize it. So would you mind doing the summary of our
Okay.
little ordeal?
Okay. So basically, the social and emotional things we reviewed were tantrums and interventions with those. Or some of them are like giving a hug and speaking calmly, feed and water your kids, or laugh it off, or get them out of the situation. Um, and we also talked about bullying intervention, um, and that was like there's authoritative intervention, and there's um, I can't remember to look at it. Sorry, so bad. Non-punitive approach, enlisting other adults and working with the victim, and just having like all of those encompassed in order to to help with that. And just we talked briefly about a few problems, physical and cognitive, and some interventions that can be taken for those. And we both agree that most of the interventions need to be parent-based. It's parents' responsibility. They need to be educated. They need to reach out for resources, and they need to be in tune with what's going on with their child. So I don't know. Does that wrap it up? What do you think?
I think that wraps it up for me.
Okay. So I'm not the best at this. So.
I'm stuck at it too. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and